So, morning campers. I'm just going to do a quick vlog on the court proceedings that are going on, and I had a sleepless night over Graham Johnson saying that I threatened him, and his partner. Now, it's against the law to threaten individuals in the UK. I am not going to commit a crime. Accused of committing crimes verbatim, just non-stop, by BBC, by his pals, just constantly accused of that, and constantly accused of that, and not even needing to to justify it. I've never heard of any individuals being accused of things where people could just get away with accusing them of awful things and getting away with it, and it's because they know I'm not lawyered up, and that I am poor, and I'm female and a single mother, and it's just appalling. There should be a law against it, but there isn't. You know, a lot of people campaigning about this, that, and the other, but there's not enough being done for women who aren't well-to-do being abused. They're campaigning for celebrities to get this, that, and the other. Oh, and it's terrible, they were in the newspapers over this, that, and the other. Meanwhile, the abuse that's been heaped out on me has been massive. The false accusations. So I'm just feeling really bad. According to Graham Johnson, he announced in the reported in public that his girlfriend, they're not married, his girlfriend sent me a letter because I threatened her. I've got that letter, and it is about a blog about Graham Johnson saying I work the rim like Sharon Stone, her being really upset, and I did a joke at the end of it. She asked me to take down the blog, and apologise to her, which I did. Now that was all done, and it's in writing. I don't really understand how you could announce to the public, and just to do that, to try and demonise me, yet again, just makes me physically sick. Now, the reason they're demonising me, and Graham told me this a long time ago when we had dinner at a French restaurant, and there was something that happened at that French restaurant. I'm sure he will recall it after the incident, I'll call it. A BBC journalist joined us, and he paid for me to go to Secker Hall. There's a record of that that was paid by the BBC to try and find Daily Mail remittances. So this has been going on since 2016, and the BBC are involved in it. The BBC then announced yesterday, despite me taking legal action against them, they announced that that I was a specialist in getting celebrities' medical records. Now, as far as I know, and I was a private investigator since age 16, that is an absolute impossibility. An absolute impossibility. You can barely get a repeat prescription without showing your passport, let alone these very, very rich and super famous people. I mean, it's just absolutely incredulous. But they're trying to target the Daily Mail. So at this dinner where I was intimate with Graham Johnson in this restaurant, and the owner in there remembers me. He remembers seeing us sitting there kissing in the restaurant. So I've already got a statement from him, and after that, I was on board. Now, I don't know. There was some kind of attraction to Graham. I don't know what it was, but my son's a witness to it. He saw it, and I was sucked in. So I wasn't sucked in for money. I was sucked in for my feelings for Graham Johnson, and I was trying to help him. And he announced that excuse me. He said he wasn't in a relationship anymore, and also he announced that he wanted me to help him. That would be on the right side, yada yada. After that one incident, that seemed to be put to one side, anything like that. But I think I still carried on having some kind of torch for him, and this played a huge part in everything. My attraction to really, really, really dark men, and it's what led me into working for the newspapers, Phil Hall, the Ian Brady thing, and when I was working for the newspapers, I had an affair with Greg Miskew. Now, when I had dinner with Graham, and he always tapes me, and James Hanning, I brought up Greg, and I said, oh, it wasn't full-on sex, and they both nudged each other, and sort of Graham tapped his pocket as if I had made up my relationship with Greg Miskew. Well, I had the deepest feelings for Greg Miskew. He came round my flat non-stop, not only during the day, saying he was stressed out, yada yada, but after work. And everybody knew about that. My porter, that I'm still in contact with, is a witness to that, because he said, oh, news of the world here for you. And then the first time he started doing it, in the 90s, I thought that he, for some bizarre reason, I thought that he'd arrived to sort of sack me and say, oh, you can't work for us anymore, or I'd done something wrong. I was terrified. And nope, he just wanted to sit there, drink my brandy. And eventually I developed feelings for him. We were sexual, but never, never actually, because he had a problem in that direction. And but that's by the by. I was really, I had just really deep feelings for him, and it was based on friendship. We were friends, bottom line, and I'm glad that I had the chance before he died, because Paul Samurai, when he arranged, I think it's Channel 4 filming, he said to me, oh, he's dying. And I thought, I just want to clear all this. So everything was cleared. Oh God, I can't think straight here. So I'm on a Zoom call, but I didn't want to be rude and end it. And but I need to talk about this. So it's playing in the background and it's distracting me. I'm just going to come out of it because yeah, there we are. It's just that was very helpful for me this morning. It's a women's support group for women that are victims of domestic violence. So I feel like I am and have been all my life. So going back to Greg Miskew, I had the chance to apologise to him, and I'm really glad, actually, just really glad. I apologise to him for writing about him and writing about our relationship, and I did it in anger because I don't know why he took up with that phone hacking nonsense, and I don't know why he did it. I just felt very angry towards him. I mean, why would you do that if you're on, I think he was on about $250 a year. Why would you do that? It's just intrusive, it's nasty. And I was happy not being a private investigator for the press. I was a journalist, and I swapped in the 90s. I got a staff press pass from the Sunday Mirror and stopped being a private investigator. I was a journalist, and I got my bylines, I wrote my books, and was a journalist, known as a journalist, acted as a journalist, wasn't a private investigator anymore. And anything I did was obviously journalistic. I don't know PIs that are asked to stand up stories. They wouldn't know where to start. And I was asked to stand up every story. And that is what I did. And bizarrely, he's there in court because of envy. He went into the Sunday Mirror. I was hugely respected, and he wasn't respected. I was asked to go to the parties at people's houses. Fiona Whitty's house. He wasn't. He was left out, and he was filled with jealousy. I brought him along to a Real IRA meeting. Now, he being an investigations editor, why hasn't he got connections there? But he didn't. Or with the UDA. Didn't have the connections, couldn't forge them. I forged them. So he was like, here's this investigator, well, actually I'm a journalist, who's met serial killers, who knows the leaders, Michael McKevitt of the Real IRA, knows John White, UDA, Johnny Adair. How come? That should be me. And how come Fiona Whitty's inviting her around a house, and Dave Dillon, Matt Bell, and they all really like her and respect her? That should be me. And he was really torn up about it. So he made it his business to try and destroy me. And you're doing a brilliant job, but, when you set out and you destroy or try and destroy, you're not doing a brilliant job, because I actually am profoundly spiritual, and I work with spirits, and I'm not just going to let this go. And he is attempting to destroy me. Okay, attempting. And I was told that in the shamanic journey I did previously. Shamanic journey with enemies. He's trying to destroy, he's trying to vilify me, because he thinks if I can vilify her, it will make me bigger. I will be the big investigator. If I say she did medical records, no, I was asked to do I had a part in every story at one time that was in every newspaper, tabloid, the lower tabloids, because they didn't know how to stand up stories. And to just try and smear somebody that they're somebody that does that. And I noticed it was repeated online by their pet journalists. And that was something that happened to me after they found out I was in. And because I was too friendly with them, and, found out I was going into the Priory and getting therapy. And, spy in there. And then he announced in the dark that I went along to spy on patients. I went along for my appointments as a rape victim. You piece of shit. You absolute scumbag. Imagine lying like that. It's like really fucking weird. It's really weird. And then the bizarre story about Ron Wood. I told you a story that I was on a flight out to interview the Real IRA, and I got swapped out to first class. I was travelling as a News of the World journalist, so they popped me up to first class. I saw Ron Wood behind me. I sat down, and I thought he's going to sit next to me. I knew it. Anyway, he sat next to me and was talking to me about this and that, and I said, I'm a journalist. I'm a journalist, for the News of the World. And, I said, I'm going to interview the Real IRA. And he said, can I come? And so I was going to actually say yes. And he said, I'll tell you what, leave it. And he gave me his address. He said, come over for the weekend with your friends. We've got a pool, yada, yada. I didn't go. But then I later saw him in a therapy group for the Priory that I was there for my own treatment, and I saw him there. It's like, what the fuck? And I thought, he knows me as a journalist. I don't know, and you twisted that into something. What the fuck? Now, I went along with everything you said, and I'm not sure why I did it. I listened to my vlog yesterday, and I thought, hang on, Christine, he threatened to kick your door down. You were burglarized. Now I can't say, oh, Evan Harris, Graham Johnson did it. I don't have the proof. Somebody did it. They didn't take my jewellery. They took all my tech. And Sylvia Jones, the journalist, she's a very intelligent woman, had said to me when all this was going on and they were offering the £16,000, be careful. You might get burgled, so they don't have to pay it. It wasn't paid. I was burgled, and the remittance devices from the Daily Mail and the Sunday Mirror were stolen. Nobody took the jewellery. And then when I rang Graham Johnson, I said, I've been burgled, ? I was just, I don't know, when things like that happen, I go into numbness. And he went, just concentrate on you and your son weren't beaten up. And I could take that in a kind of weird way. But again, I had this weird feelings for Graham Johnson. It's weird. And I don't know, I was thinking about that yesterday, and it's played a part. Number one, in my involvement with the press in the first place, I was working as a private investigator, doing corporate espionage, not happy because I was used to put myself in danger. I was used to cozy up to very powerful men, find out their business. And they recruited me more or less out of care. And I have this like weakness, and I don't even know what it is, but it's there. And so I was used, and I wasn't paid much, and it was pretty piss poor. Anyway, I wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to work with offenders because my father had taken me to see his brother who was in a mental hospital, and it grew in me a kind of fascination for that kind of thing. So I wanted to work with people like that. Read about Brady and thought that I don't know, I thought that there was something around it, something strange that was hidden. And so I wrote him, visited him, yada yada, and enter Phil Hall, who became my lover, if you can call it that. And then after he'd finished telling the world that I was Ian Brady's daughter, he dropped me in a brothel and used to come round, and in between the pimp came in and asked I could work for him, I could earn a lot of money. I was very attractive back in that time. I'm older now. I'm sure I wouldn't get a pimp saying to me. So yeah, so that interest in men like that drew me to Ian Brady, drew me to being a victim of Phil Hall. Phil Hall and Graham Johnson, they remind me of each other, they even look alike. Very ambitious, really ambitious, willing to step on somebody to get where they want to be. I don't think Phil Hall is happy. I don't. I know he's incredibly rich. He's got a wife that sticks up for him. I know Bruce Goodison wanted to film him, and there was the other film company wanted to film him, Reed Mazza, and he met them for an interview, and then his wife stepped forward and said, oh, it's not in our interests. No shit. He wasn't ever going to appear in that Mazza thing. Anyway, so he's super, super rich. He never gets mentioned in phone hacking, or his name's never brought up, because if you're super rich, not only do you not even get accused of, maybe allegedly, you certainly don't get accused of anything. Because I'm poor and a woman, I get accused of everything, and they just state it as if this is true, even though, where's my arrest? I helped Operation Wheating and told them everything. That's in my 60-page statement, and that's there. And these people were dying to get hold of that statement. They're such creeps. Anyway, going back to this vilification of the BBC. The BBC want to attack Lord Rothermere for some reason, and I was told by a contact that's quite connected in this way that Lord Rothermere is personally upset by this, and he's the Daily Mail owner, and he's getting involved in it. Now, the BBC, for some reason, are targeting him. They want to finish him. They want to destroy him. Now, I was only told bits of this, and I was told the Hugh Grant thing, but I think that that was Johnson. Well, I think Hugh Grant is involved, but this runs kind of deeper because Hugh Grant isn't the BBC. The BBC have been involved in this right from the get-go, and it's all about targeting the male. They don't really give a shit about the son, although they're collecting the money from that. This is about finishing. He told me that day when we had that little, you know, intimacy. It didn't mean anything. I'm quite sure he loves his partner in a certain way, I guess, even though he said a lot of negative things. I'm not going to repeat them. That's not very nice. But he told me a lot during that intimacy. He told me that they were going to finish the Daily Mail, and what else was said? Yeah, something about I would help because they would say that I did this certain thing, getting celebrities' medical records, and they would say that every time a celebrity was in the Daily Mail, it's not really funny, was in the Daily Mail, anything to do with their health, they could say, oh, because you worked there for 10 years, that must have been you. And he said we can sue on each of them for a few million at the pop, and we can tear down the Mail. I didn't have a reaction to that. I didn't really care. I was a bit shocked because I thought, why do you hate them? It's like weird, but it was very personal. And the BBC came that day, but they kept moving. The BBC was very involved with Gavin Burrows, very involved with, he was conned into doing something called Princes in the Press, blacked into doing it. So the royal family are linked with this in some kind of way. I don't really understand what way. I'm sure other people more intelligent than me will understand what's going on. I don't. So you got a lord. I don't know much about Lord Rothermere, nothing even. And then you've got, I think maybe he might know Charles, maybe, I don't know. And then on the other side you've got Prince Harry and the BBC. They're so active in this. I would say they're the driving force behind it. You've got this Gunnar Cook. You've got Hacked Off, but I think Hacked Off now distanced himself from it. You've got Evan Harris. Jesus, that man is so dark. It's unbelievable. And I say this, Evan, if I'm harmed physically in any way, or my son is harmed, I will release that tape. So 2 tapes, one with the threats with the cocaine. Now I've got backup from Gavin Burrows saying that Graham Johnson, he's got this on tape, said to him, if you want anybody cocaine planted on them, I've got a team that can do it. So this is the cocaine threat that's been levied at 2 different private investigators, and it's on tape both times. Now, I'm not going to release that tape, okay? Now, I've made a promise about that. I'm not going to, because I know this runs really deep and dark. I'm not going to release that tape if I'm not physically harmed. If anybody comes near me in any way physically, or my child, it gets released, okay? But I make a promise that won't get released if I'm not touched, because it's by the by. I know I've lived amongst gangsters my entire life. I know how they move, what they do. It's okay. I'm not taking it personally even. But that is an insurance policy for me. It doesn't get passed to anybody. It's held by somebody. And I know, Graham, that you tried to get that out of me, who it was, over dinner. It's not Sean, actually. Anyway, going back, I couldn't believe it. They were like, oh, you've got this friend who you like and all that. And Greg Miskey tried to ring me and say, who's that friend, that guy that you like, that sort of guy that looks really tough? And I said his name, and I could hear Greg writing his name down. What are you going to, like, try and track him and then enter his house and look for these Daily Mail remittances? It's like, Jesus, it's so sick. Anyway, going back to this, I don't understand what's actually going on. I don't. But it's to do with the royals. Now, I was asked by Doug Kempster back for the Sunday Mirror. They'd done something on Diana. He rang me up, said, would I speak to Diana on this number and verify it's her phone number? I rang it. She answered, hello. And I'm an energy reader, so I read her energy, and it's just really beautiful, really kind of holy almost. I don't know, she might be Christ's bloodline. It's really just beautiful. I couldn't even get hello out. I said hello. She said hello, hello. Now that'll be on record because her calls will be recorded by MI5. Anyway, put the phone down, said to Doug Kempster, a witness, I couldn't do it, couldn't speak, I couldn't, you know. And they use this big, oh, you use deception. Where now, look at Gabriel Byrne on the start of Defence of the Realm. Does he not get in a car and pretend to this woman he wants a story of that he's the milkman or something like that? I can't really recall. It's not deception. It's what journalists did back in the day. They never said, oh, I'm from the Sunday Mirror. They'd always say they were the milkman or something like that. And he's like, you use deception. I mean, what? God, sanctimonious prat. This is journalism. If journalism needs to be overhauled, that's great, but that's been that way since, I don't know, since the war, maybe before the war. This is the public's hunger for, I don't personally agree with it. I mean, my God, Phil Hall found out I was going up to visit Ian Brady. Did I want to be smeared and shamed all over the paper that was blood related to him? I'm certainly not. Did I want that? No, I didn't. So I'm all for that. I was a victim of it, much more of a victim than any of these celebrities can claim to be. It ruined my life. It ruined my marriage. I was due to get married to the son of Sir Hugh Fish, John Fish. I had to tell him about it, and the engagement was off. So it's eaten into my life in so many ways. Also making me continue to have a relationship with Brady, who it's not a good thing to do. It's not a healthy thing to do. It's affected me. Didn't get me anywhere either. It got Phil Hall loads more stories. So I almost feel that I've been like a prostitute in this story somehow, even though I've been like forced to work and paid for work. But I almost feel it's almost like pimp prostitute dynamics. And I watched a film last night called La Vie Nouvelle, and it was a French film about a woman who was trafficked, shaved, passed around by a pimp to various men, and then they danced together. And as they danced, I felt like this is the dance I've danced all my life. And so going back to Princess Diana. When Graham Johnson approached me again, he did so through James Hanning, and but I still had this weird draw towards Graham Johnson. I don't even know what it was, but it's definitely to do with what led me into the press. I remember going out to dinner with Phil Hall. The journalist who'd written about me desecrated me. He desecrated me, destroyed me, dropped me in a brothel. When a friend rescued me from there and I was living in his house, I still dated Phil. This is how weird. This is a like prostitute pimp mentality. The pimp will beat up the prostitute. The prostitute, oh, I love him though. I have that going on for some reason. I don't know why. I've had so much therapy, never been able to pull it out of me, which doesn't say a lot for therapy. So I've had this going on. I had it with Phil. People say, how could you join the world that desecrated you? Well, we were in a pub one time, and Phil Hall said, look over there, they're the news of the world. They're so powerful. And I remember them, men in Crombies. One was Alex Marinchek, I think the other was Greg Miskiw. And I brushed past them, and it was almost like brushing past, I don't know, vampires or something. I felt their darkness. And I've always been really, 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 really drawn to darkness. I don't know why, in a weird way. Stockholm Syndrome, maybe, because of my adoptive father and repressing all that. But having years of therapy, they should have got to that. They've taken a six-figure sum off me over the years, and I've got nothing to show. They've just taken my money. So it feels really weird to still be in this position when you've sought help to not be in this position. You get very judged by other women as well. Oh, you're attracted to what? I'm not. Look at my lovely, nice, clean, good husband. You must be bad because why are you attracted over there? I mean, and it makes it unable for you to come out and talk about it honestly. I can't be the only woman in the world who has it. And it's not that thing where, oh, you're sexually attracted to men who are violent. When has Graham Johnson been violent? When has Greg Miskiw been violent? When has Phil Hall been violent? It's not about that. It's something else. That's what men, oh, it's that. Dirty slag. Actually, no, it's not. I don't know what it is. God, I hope I get to finding out what it is before I get to my deathbed. I'm thinking maybe it's Stockholm Syndrome, but this dance that this woman who was shaven, she had a haircut with scissors, roughly cut, passed around, and then they did that dance, and she cooperated in the dance with the pimp, and I just thought, that's the story of my life, and it's the story of many other women's life, not these women that get the sort of dumbed down husband, and but there's something unreal about that as well. Actually, I think I entered a world of men. I think I did better than them. I got into the cages of serial killers. I got to engage with the head of the Real IRA. I got to stand up stories. I think that they were very castrated by me, and they felt castrated. And one time, a journalist from the Times, he wrote a story about Liam Campbell and the families in Dundalk. And I rang him up and I said, you've got that all wrong, mate. I said, if you like, I'll bring you down to Dundalk and you can come round Campbell's house and, he can explain to you what's what with the families in Dundalk. And he exploded. And he went, you really think you're a fly-by-the-seat kind of a girl, don't you? And I laughed. I said, what? I said, I'm just trying to help you. But it was jealousy. It was out-and-out jealousy that I am brave and I've got balls and they didn't. And I'm a woman. And you can't be like that. Now, I remember standing outside the Emerald Bar in Dundalk, and I remember being absolutely terrified. My throat was dry. I remember one time meeting up with the Real IRA, being picked up from the airport. I shit myself. I had to go to the toilet, take my underwear off, came back, shit myself again, had to go back again. So it's not like, oh, you weren't scared. I was terrified, but I pushed myself. And men sometimes can't do that. Women can do it. And they're, oh, that's not right. Hang on, we're supposed to be the head honchos. Anyway, going back to Diana. When we met up, again, Graham Johnson, etc., and I had this weird crush on Graham, clearly, I mean, and he was like, oh, you've got to help me, you've got to help me. And hello? Hello? I'm getting loads of weird calls. I'm sure that's a backhanded threat from them. I'm going to shut up. I've already given a film testimony anyway to certain parties. And I'm also going somewhere this afternoon to give another film testimony. So it's all said and done. Anyway, so going back to, was it 2021 when James Hanning, and they started saying about this book thing, James Hanning will write your life story, it will be made into a movie, Hugh Grant will be in it, Guy Ritchie will help the screenplay. So of course, as a writer, I've always been a writer, you're like blown away, and yeah, okay, I'll say anything you want, and I did. And it was all, oh, we've got you on tape confessing, but they would be like, oh, tape's playing now, so let's start from now, clapperboard. And so this was this was the bribe, but it wasn't only that, because people are saying, like Michael Gillard said, oh, you wanted the money. It wasn't actually even about that. Even when they paid for my car to get fixed, it actually wasn't about that. I think it was just this crush on Graham Johnson, because he's like Phil Hall, like that kind of really, really, really dark man that I am somehow weirdly like a magnet for. It's absolutely bizarre. It's really bizarre. As I say, I've always wanted to be rid of it, but clearly not. It's almost like It's almost like I have a sort of weird hunger for them, like their food. It's really strange. I don't know. I don't know. It's almost like I would rape one of them if I had the chance. It's strange. And I remember talking to a therapist about it after seeing Kenneth Bianchi, the Hillside Strangler, on the TV. And I said, this weird urge like to rape him. And the therapist said, it's revenge on your father. He sexually abused me. And I said, well, how can that be revenge? He said, you want to get as close as you can to men that are abusive so you can destroy them. I don't know, is it that? I don't know, it doesn't ring true to me. Anyway, so going back to Diana, they were like, oh, wasn't good enough that I just heard her voice and hung up. And there's witnesses to this, because Douglas Kempster is a witness, because I said to him, I can't lie to Princess Diana, or, you know, pretend to be somebody I'm not. And he then told Chris Boffey, I believe at the time. So there's two witnesses. Anyway, they wanted me to say, oh, you spoke to her. So I said, well, what would I say? And they were like, maybe a ruse. And I'm like, well, what kind of ruse? And so I said, maybe something like that. And they were like, oh, yeah, that's great. Say that. So there I was, just going along and saying that. They were like, oh, we'll help you fix your car. They helped me fix my car. So I was talking to a journalist about it recently, and he was like, oh, well, you said it so you could get your car fixed. But I don't think it was that. I think it was just my obsession with Graham Johnson. I really do. I think it was like a need to connect with him, to meet up with him, to have dinner with him. We had lots of dinners in the Ivy, and to sort of be involved with him in some kind of way, which was the same weird thing I had with Phil Hall. Phil Hall was like, because once I met Ian Brady, obviously I thought, oh, like, just like, you know, a long-term patient in a mental hospital. It was really depressing. I thought, oh, Jesus. And they really glamorize Brady. They think they don't, but they do. Even that weird on Amazon Becoming Ian Brady. Now, they asked me to come on that and talk. And I said, well, you'll need to pay me for my time. And they were like, oh, we don't pay anyone. And I'm like, no, I can't. I'm glad I didn't. It was shit, actually. And also the glamorization to a certain extent. Like, oh, this person's so fascinating. Well, no, talk to occultists about him, or Jeremy Coyd about him. Don't do some big, like he's, I don't know, Carl Jung or something. It's just sick. Anyway, so I wanted to be involved with Phil Hall. So after he did what he did to me, I fled to New York because I didn't have any choice. This is how these celebrities go on about, oh, my life is ruined, I was in the paper for having a new boyfriend, whatever. Try being smeared as related to the worst serial killer in the UK. I didn't have any money, they didn't pay me. I flew to New York. They'd lied that I'd said it. Phil Hall said, I'm going to write it that you've claimed it. That way there's no comeback on me. And I just looked at him, and then we had sex. It's like I will abuse you and you will dance with me. Like that girl in the film, she had been pimped out, she'd been beaten up. There was a guy who saw her, he didn't want to have sex with her, he wanted to beat her up, so he beat her up as she fell on the floor. The pimp then came to get her, got the money off the guy, and he sat there playing with himself, and then she did this dance with him, and I'm locked into that dance, just locked into it. And I've ended up in poverty, even though I've worked my butt off. I did work with the Real IRA, got close to them, got stories, got headhunted by the Sunday Times. I never had any friends back in the day. I worked my butt off, and now I'm known online now as someone who threatened Graham Johnson, someone who got medical records. I was a specialist for it. I never did that. They asked me after the Priory stuff, oh, can your doctor friend in the Priory, this is Mark Collins, an eminent bloody, it's as if he would, can he, because they were asking me to ask him, oh, is this one in there, is that one in there, is Liz Hurley in there, and so they thought that he was a contact. It's like weird how sort of slow they are in some kind of way. And then they started saying, oh, can your doctor get information from other places? Here, do this for me, do that for me. And it was just a load of nonsense. And they started bullying the men, not the women, started bullying me. Oh, get this. Well, actually, one of them did. Get this. If you don't get this, you won't get any other work. We'll cut you out of Fleet Street. Now, after being a story, after spending since you were age 22 in Fleet Street, you don't want to get pushed out. So what I did, when they would say, oh, find out, ring this doctor, find out if this one's pregnant, I used to say, well, you sure about this? And if they said, yeah, we're sure, I would come back and say, yeah, you're right. And if they said, oh, we're not sure, I would come back and say, no, you're not right. And this seemed to work. I felt a certain amount of anger towards them for asking me to do something that's actually criminal. And I explained all this to the BBC. They deliberately were obtuse about it. And I said, look, hang on. Okay, so say Rebecca Brooks says to you, I want you to go and steal £10 off that little old lady. It's your job. And if you don't steal that £10 off that little old lady, then you're not going to have a job anymore. Your career's fucked. So what do? You go over and you think, Jesus, if I steal that £10 off that little old lady, I might go to prison. So what you do, you go back to Rebecca Brooks, for example, and you say, here's the tenner. I stole it off the little old lady. Well, I didn't even have to produce a tenner. They just wanted me to say it. So all I had to say was, yeah, nick the tenner off the little old lady. And that's how it rock and rolled. I thought I was being incredibly clever, keeping my place in Fleet Street. But what happens years and years later, Graham Johnson rolls up. He wants money, millions, out of the newspapers, and ropes me into it. Because I'm like, oh, I'll help you then. Not for any money, just for love of a look from Graham Johnson. I know, it's so cringingly pathetic. A dinner out with Graham Johnson. I have to really look at myself, actually. I really do. There's something about me that is just so childish and pathetic. Literally, I got involved with this just to have dinners out with Graham Johnson. It's horrible. It's really bad. It's really pathetic. And I remember a girl I know being on the Skype one time when he rang, and she went, hang on a minute, why are you meeting him? You know he's not a nice person. And I went, no. She said, no, think about why you're meeting him. Why? Are you lonely? What are you doing it for? And I think probably loneliness as well played a part, you know. Being a single mother is lonely. And yeah, I think that is a part. And I had an ex one time who said to me, loneliness fucks you over every time. And I'm guessing, you know, probably that Phil Hall involvement was about loneliness, really. After he'd screwed my life over, I should have walked away. But actually, I was so destroyed, I needed his arms to find comfort. So there again, there's that woman in that film, Lavie Nouvelle. Her pimp took her into the room. She was beaten up, and then she went back to the pimp and danced with him. It's that same thing. I don't know what it is. If anybody's got any wisdom, please post below. I don't want to get trolled. My comments are, they go through security. Somebody else sees them. So you want to say nasty things to me? I won't see it. Anyway, so this is how it rock and rolls, and that's how it came to be. So they maybe say I said this about Diana. So I was like, okay, you know, let's get the press. They're really bad, Christine. You have to help them. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'll say anything you want. So it wasn't about the money. It was about I wanted to be involved with Graham because he struck me as like being like Phil Hall. He struck me as being like Greg Miskew and that kind of weird magnet thing I have for men like that. That really, I deserve to have had that pulled out of me a long, long time ago. I have seen, been at the Priory for years, went to Los Angeles to have primal therapy. I've had EMDR, I've had hypnotism, I've had, and all to get at this one thing. What is my attraction for men like that? Why am I putting myself in the position of that girl in the film? Why am I doing it? Why do I play out the prostitute role with men? Why aren't I like other women that plays out the Madonna role with women? Why do I go to dark men that will want me to act out that role? Look at the Hillside Strangler that I made a beeline for. He had a girlfriend at home he treated like her shit smelt of roses, and then he got girls from care homes, more like me, that he murdered and tortured. What is it about me that has to connect with men like that have Madonna whore syndrome? There's been books written about it, but maybe I need to reorder them. One was the Casanova complex, the other was, and they're women, the other was, there's a back part where it talks about the Casanova complex and the Casanova's women. And then it talks, there's another book, men who hate women and the women who love them. So my life's been utterly destroyed by this urge in me, which doesn't seem sexual. I don't think it's sexual. It's more mental, but maybe it's linked. I don't know, literally. But I have spent six-figure sum, because these people, primal therapy, the Priory, they're not cheap. I've literally spent what I should have had on owning a house by now, and they haven't helped me, not one bit. And that's not right somehow. I'm a certified counsellor now, and I'm going for my higher awards. And I actually was sitting there in it, and I thought, hang on, this is not going to help anyone. Psychoanalysis, CBT, it's not. People are going to sit there, they're not going to get helped. And it made me think, why am I doing this? Because it doesn't help. What I think it boils down to, and I've had a lot of Sarah Adams healings recently, which are spiritual, shamanic, and they've helped me. Shadow work, that kind of thing, because I think it's a spiritual sickness. I do, on both sides. On both, when I saw the couple dancing, it's a sickness on his part to treat a woman in that way. That man is selling that woman. She's getting beaten up. He's having sex with her too. It's like, I am a male, I will abuse female. And I am a female, I will be abused by male. And they're dancing in that together. Now, the male and female union is supposed to bring a really high spirituality. It's supposed to connect you to God. So when the male and the female human being have sex, it literally connects you to the God source. And it's not going on planet Earth. Here, we're actually doing, like that French film, they're not doing it to such a high extent as I am. I'm doing it like really in a big way. But they're doing it in small little ways. You know, they'll have a man that doesn't love them, that maybe meets up with other women, has dinner with them and snogs them after, and then slags them off. And they'll tolerate that, and they'll die. They'll get to old age with that man, they'll die, and they think, hang on, I've spent my whole life with a man that doesn't actually give a toss about me. There's that kind of thing. So they're just the same as me. They're a mirror image. But, you know, there's no sisterhood anymore. Absolutely just not. Absolutely just not. And people might say to me, well, hang on, you were snogging a guy who told you he had a partner. No, actually, my tongue didn't do anything. So actually, no, he kissed me. And that's happened to me a lot in my life, just because men think they can do what they want. With me, as I get older, obviously it's not going to happen. I don't think it'll ever happen with me now. I'm not attractive anymore. But literally when I was younger, people just thought I was there for the taking. Just like that woman on that film. And I was talking to a friend of mine. I said, why? Because my son showed me the film. And I said, why is my son interested in that kind of thing? Because he's always sticking up for women. He's going, this is terrible the way women are treated. And men go out with women, they use them for sex, and they don't love them. And I said, well, that's the way the world bloody is. And he said, but it's not right. And I said to a friend of mine, why is he like that? So concerned with women's rights and women that have been violated and sticking up for me. And he went, oh, for God's sake, your entire life has been about your sexual abuse. You even went to visit serial killers because of it. And you expect him not to want to do something to help you. So this is, but, you know, I've tried to help myself. I haven't got any answers. Anyway, this is meant to be about Diana and, you know, putting it out there. They make out that they are so chummy with Prince Harry. yet they were willing to say that Diana was spoken to when she wasn't, and that's not very friendly with Prince Harry. They don't give a damn about Prince Harry. All they care about is trying to get money, and for some reason attacking this Lord Rothermere character. I don't know shit about him, but I'm going to research him. What has he done to them? What's going on with him? I don't know. Anyone who wants to enlighten me over this, please do go ahead. And I apologise to Prince Harry for saying I had that conversation with his mother, but I was told, oh, you're going to help. I was, wanting to be in the presence of Graham. And there was all this going on. And I feel bad about it now. It's like I was sucked into a cult. And it was like, you'll remember, you'll be looked after by us. You will never be lonely again. And I got involved with it, and just because I was lonely, and that's the bottom line. I was lonely, it was exploited, and I apologise to Prince Harry for saying that I had a conversation with Diana that I didn't. But I was willing to say that, to say, oh, look how bad the press are. They really did attack Diana. They even rang her up on the bedside phone. I mean, they did have the number after all. But I was willing to say that I'd spoken to her. And if it meant, exposing the press as bad. So I could be part of this cult. And Hugh Grant's a member, and, you'll get Guy Ritchie writing screenplay of your In for the Kill book. And that's not too hard to believe, because I used to be friends with Anne Hardy, who read my book In for the Kill, liked it, and she said, I'm going to pass it to Tom. He's going to show it to Leonardo DiCaprio, and we'll see if we can get a screenplay, and you and me will write it, Christine. So it's not like, too beyond all abilities to believe that Hugh Grant might want to pass it to Guy Ritchie. So I, not super arrogant believing it. I mean, these things, sometimes they get going and sometimes they don't. I had Jane Campion's sister want to make a film of Searching for Daddy, and Sienna Miller was going to play the part of me. Now that's online, and the BBC try and make out that I would remember being called by Rebecca Brooks about Sienna Miller. Well, hang on, she was due to play me in a movie. I think I'd remember whenever her name's mentioned. I'd remember it exactly. I remember even where I was sitting, and I was never asked to ring her GP. I swear on my son getting cancer of the brain, I was never asked to ring her GP. And maybe people think it's wrong to say that, but I'm pig sick of being accused. And I most certainly didn't threaten Graham Johnson. What the hell? You can't threaten people. In the UK, it's a crime. What did I say? And that annoyed me that the lawyer didn't then say, oh, what did she say? Did she say hello to my little friend? I'm going to get you, bitch. I mean, how was the threat issued? That wasn't delved into. That would be interesting to know. Since I reported Graham for threatening me, saying he was going to kick the door down to get my Daily Mail remittances, apparently the private investigator Gavin Burrows was threatened. His wife has a heart complaint. She was so terrified of Graham, she had to move homes, and their 11-year-old boy was involved. So all this people threatening him, it's like, I was told yesterday by a barrister, very intelligent man, he said he's getting that in first. That's his way. So when he's accused of you threatened all these people, he'll say, no, but I'm the victim. I don't know, but oh, Jesus, it's just really weird. And it's made me feel weird. It's mostly made me feel weird because I got involved with them because of this weird attraction to Graham Johnson. And my entire life was ruined by the Ian Brady thing and that relationship with Phil Hart. And then, of course, the relationship with Greg Miskiw. And it just feels as if that illness within me has landed me in poverty. And I look around and there's mold on the ceilings. My son hasn't holiday in years. When you go into his bedroom, there's a smell of mold, black mold, and it's all over the walls where he sleeps. And I've got my child there, the most precious thing to me in the world, because of this weird attraction to dark men. And it's eaten into my life. And I've tried to get help for it, and none of these men have helped me, and I'm still that girl in that film who, she had her hair hacked off. The most dark part of it, it's called La Vie Nouvelle, French film, Lavie Nouvelle, Nouvelle. The worst part of it was when the pimp brought her into a man. He didn't want to have sex, so he wanted to beat her up. And when she gets beaten up, you can really feel it, and she's squealing. And I've been in that position with men. I had a man in bed with me, he was punching me in my kidneys, and then he punched me in the mouth, split my lip. I ran, managed to get away. Didn't report him to the police, I was too scared of him. That was my boyfriend. And I managed to end it. It seems to be something in me that when I'm hit, that it makes me end it. Maybe not. I'm thinking of someone else now that I just let carry on. Then there was another boyfriend who came home one time, lit some newspaper, let it burn, and waved it in my head saying, "Burn the witch, burn the witch." And then he got a bread knife and he started waving it at me, and he slashed my nose. I've still blood spurted out. I've still got the scar. So I carried on going out with him. I don't know what it is. I was in a group this morning, domestic violence with women. There was a girl in there trying to explain to me. I don't know. I feel as if it's something dark, like a fawn, and that needs to be pulled out. And